We begin with a new report that Paul Manafort, the president's former campaign chairman, paid secret visits, multiple ones, to Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
The story is shaking Washington. The Guardian, citing sources, saying Manafort and Assange held a secret meeting at the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
Manafort held 3 secret meetings with WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, including one in 2016, around the time he became the Trump campaign chairman.
He met 3 times with WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, living in Ecuador's London embassy.
Paul Manafort, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange on several occasions.
There was some sort of coordination or collusion. This would seem like there's more evidence pointing to that.
If it's true, of course, the implications are explosive, right?
The key to collusion could be this alleged meeting, which was exactly around the time Manafort joined Trump's campaign, spring 2016. A source saying all of this went down around March, the very month when Manafort started working for Trump.
Time to call out WikiLeaks for what it really is: a non-state hostile intelligence service, often abetted by state actors like Russia.
President Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, has just arrived at the FBI headquarters in Washington to face charges.
Just this morning that says Paul Manafort met with Julian Assange, a claim that WikiLeaks about 4 minutes ago tweeted out and disputed.
The story is getting even more twisted. It turns out The Guardian has been editing their article in the aftermath of publishing it. Words like would have and apparent and hoax are being added. It looks like they're starting to back away from some of the allegations they made about Manafort.
That would be a bombshell, because that would be the connection between Trump and Russia that they're trying to create. Because in the last 2 years, despite the media looking for any and everything that they can find to make this connection, no connection has been found.
The Guardian is a horrible, horrible piece of dog crap paper right now.
Quickly, everyone from Takei on through exploded across the Twitter sphere within 10 minutes as Huffington Post, Vox, and so on, and all the other usual idiots began reposting the story non-critically. And The Guardian has heavily edited its original story to be like, oh, this is just an allegation. Oh, the source says that this is the fact. Like, they took out all of the declarative language for legal purposes, I'm sure, because WikiLeaks is actually capable of suing them because they're in the UK. It was funny because all of these people began reposting and saying, this is the smoking gun. Trump is finished this time. He's going to be impeached. See, we told you that there was a direct channel between Trump and Russia. Now, the first thing I was thinking, this is before it got debunked by WikiLeaks, I'm thinking, WikiLeaks is not Russia. What are you fucking talking about?
Which would be a horrible thing if Julian Assange was coordinating, you know, with the Trump campaign people trying to. So, and this played really well for people that are saying that the Russians, you know, stole the election. This is exactly what they want to hear. But the only problem is the person who said it had no evidence at all that this happened. And WikiLeaks categorically denies that it did happen. Now, we all know Julian Assange is still on lockdown in the Ecuadorian embassy in London, so he's unable to speak for himself. But those who are speaking on behalf of WikiLeaks are so certain that this is complete and utter BS that they said they would bet $1 million that it was all bogus.
They published the bold statement that Manafort and Assange had met 3 times in London, and it turns out to be a bright, shining lie.
Complete and thorough, and Manafort's not there. There are video cameras everywhere and police everywhere, and there's no record. We can withhold judgment and remain skeptical, but a possible explanation for the lack of evidence is that there isn't any evidence.
WikiLeaks is once again in the headlines, but this time for threatening to sue Britain's The Guardian newspaper. It's accused of fabricating a story about a supposed meeting with its co-founder Julian Assange and former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort.
The deep state doesn't like him because he reveals their secrets. The corporate state doesn't like him for the same reason. The war machine doesn't like him for the same reason. They all want to kill him. Julian Assange. Why? Because he's doing journalism by printing their secrets and exposing the corruption of governments and the powerful. So the Guardian, which is usually a good newspaper, they do horrible coverage of Julian Assange. They employ this guy Luke Harding, who we showed you. He wrote a book called Collusion, and when he was interviewed by Aaron Mattei and he was asked to show evidence of this collusion that he wrote a whole book on, instead of showing the evidence, he obfuscated, told more BS stories, and then eventually hung up. He just left the interview.
Now look, Julian Assange has never told me a lie. And WikiLeaks have never told me a lie. More importantly, they've never told you or anyone else a lie. And so if I'm asked to believe Luke Harding or Julian Assange and WikiLeaks, I believe the latter.
And there it is, Luke Harding, who's a discredited liar. He's the worst of the worst, Luke Harding. Okay. So, and his whole career has been that way, by the way, but he's still employed by The Guardian, which just goes to show you that if you lie on behalf of the establishment, you'll always have a job.
The reality is the hatred of WikiLeaks and of Assange in The Guardian is deeply personal and prejudiced. The Guardian worked closely with WikiLeaks, published lots of the great scoops of Julian Assange, as did many of the leading United States newspapers. And now those same newspapers are trying to send Julian Assange into the American justice system and into prison for the rest of his life, as one of your speakers just put it earlier.
Because what The Guardian did was they threw Julian Assange under the bus. Why would you throw all of your credibility out the window, Guardian? Why, Guardian? Why?
Guardian, please, man. You know, I used to read The Guardian.
The American flag stands for corporate scandals, recession, stock market declines, blackmail, terror, burning with hot irons, dripping acid on the skin, mutilation with electric drills, cutting out tongues.